This is Morgan Hazelwood, back again with more writing tips and writerly musings. With the mother who was, for a time, a children's librarian and did the best bedtime stories, I've always been fascinated with audiobook narration. As an adult, I've dabbled in voice acting with the fairy tale podcast, Anansi Storytime, Anansi like the spider. So, how do you get started with audiobook narration? How do authors find narrators for their books? And should you ever record your own stories? Welcome back to Morgan's video blog with writing tips from the pros and my own writerly musings. Today, I'm here with getting started with audiobook narration. The titular panel at Imaginarium 2022 had panelists Mike Hootchen, Jamila D. Smith, Bridget Nelson, E.G. Rowley, Michael K. Falciani, and James O. Barnes, and it was moderated by Kate Shaw. So the description was as follows: learn from professional narrators how you can become one yourself. Many of the panelists were authors who had worked with narrators, a few were narrators who had worked with authors, and some were authors and narrators themselves. So let's talk about getting into audiobook narration. Usually when talking to professionals, there's the part about how did you get started? Well, most of the narrators had narrated their own works. E.G. Rowley got his start when he fell off his bike, or was it a skateboard, outside of a recording studio, and has a voice perfect for movie trailers. That's not really reproducible by like 99.99999% of the world. Michael Falciani got in by having a publishing house and wanting to do the audiobooks in-house. So that part of the panel, not so helpful. So what do you need to get started? Well, if you're looking into doing audiobook narration yourself or for profit, there are a few things you'll need and a few things that can make your narration stronger. Before you get the job, you'll want the right microphone and filter. You'll want a quiet space to record. It could be a walk-in closet, a bed with a blanket over your head, a room with moving blankets pinned up. Whatever you do, just make sure there's no echo and that the vocal quality will remain consistent throughout the entire recording process. Moving furniture affects stuff. Another thing you can do is take an acting class. You can get familiar with audio editing software or face up to the fact you'll need money to hire an editor or to split the profits with. And then you'll want to upload samples of your narration skills, often just by reading works found in the public domain. So where do you find the job? Whether you're a narrator or an author, where do you find voice actors? Well, if you're looking to get into voice acting, there is actually less competition for narration jobs than voiceover work. Then again, it's typically a longer time commitment unless you're working on a TV series and you get royalties. Don't underprice yourself. Take a good look at the sample text and how long it's going to take you. Not the best case on a good day, and go from there. There are a lot of places to look for jobs, but the main ones are ACX, otherwise known as Audible. Most of the jobs can be found here, but they do have a very long 7-year exclusive audio contract. And they take a 60% cut, leaving 40% for the author and the narrator to split. Other places to look: voices.com, voice123.com, findawayvoices.com, and, Fiverr. But do remember, you usually get what you pay for, but there can be surprises. So after you get the job, step 1, read through the book or listen to it on Surrey or whatever. Make notes on all of the characters, attitudes, accents, etc. Some people take highlighters to the whole thing with different colors for different vocal attitudes. You'll want to get a list of any of the names or words that you're unfamiliar with, preferably pronounced aloud by the author. You'll want to get the author to demo any fantasy accents for you or collaborate to create one. You'll need to plan your time. The average read aloud speed is 155 to 165 words per minute. The average raw recording and processing time is significantly longer than the final product. Minimally 3+ hours of work for every 1 hour of narration that's in the final product. Most voice actors can only record for 45 to 90-minute sessions, maybe work your way up to 3 hours, but you do not want to strain your voice. You need to make sure that your voice stays consistent throughout the entire length of the recording. So, next, you'll need to determine to what extent you're just purely narrating versus to what extent you're voice acting with like accents and different character voices. Listen to audiobooks to see what styles you prefer and what works with your own vocal range. If you have a paper book, is it going to be making noise flipping pages? So when you sit down for a session, first you're going to want to reread the scene you're about to record. You're going to want to hydrate. You're going to want to warm up your voice. It's highly recommended to wear headphones so that you can hear any of these small background noises and make sure they're not in the final recording. You're going to want to pay attention to your breaths. You don't want to let them get caught by the microphone unless they're in the script. When you need to repeat a line, if you fumble, it's always best to start at the beginning of the sentence. For audio editors, sounds like the F sound can be easier to match up. And remember, even experienced pros have piles of corrections they'll need to make after the whole thing's put together. So, tell me a little bit about professional audio editors. Sometimes the author or publisher will hire an editor, and sometimes it's expected for you to do the work yourself or hire it out. If you hire an audio editor, they will make sure that there are no dropped words, no added words. You're reading what's on the page. They'll check for those breaths of air that aren't written in. They will make sure that the character voices are consistent from scene to scene and that there are no mispronounced words. Yes, there's a lot of fantasy stuff made up, but sometimes you just have that 1 or 2 words in your vocabulary that you just don't actually know how to pronounce aloud. Or there's a difference between British and American pronunciation, what have you. So in 2022, a skilled professional runs about $3,500 for 10 hours of narration, and it can take them 18 hours to proof it. At 160 words per minute, that's 96,000 word, or a reasonable length for a fantasy novel. So a few notes specifically for authors who are looking for narrators. You can obviously look for narrators in the same place they're looking for jobs. Shocking, I know. Some are cheaper, some are pricier. It's all in what you're looking for and a little bit of what sort of production quality you can expect. You do want to manage your expectations. For most indie and small press authors, 5 to 10 sales a month is good. So make sure it's worth the investment for you. So how do you pick a narrator? First, you're going to want to fill out a very detailed information sheet on what you're looking for. You're going to want to prepare recorded samples of you saying names of people, places, things, any made-up words. You're going to want to prepare notes on character accents and personalities, like this person is very hesitant, this person is bombastic, etc. Then you're going to listen to the samples that are sent in. And you're going to want to think about the setting and the characters when selecting a voice. You want to match your story and not necessarily the voice that sounds the prettiest to your ear. It might not be right for your story. once you've selected them, don't be afraid to create a relationship with them. It's okay to be friends. And don't be afraid to give the narrator notes. That way they know that they're giving you what you're looking for. So just be careful and make sure that your story is 100% ready before you get that narrator for it. The final question, of course, for everyone in the room was, should I narrate my own book? Well, the panelists, especially our professional narrator, gave a resounding yes. They went on to say, no one knows your story like you do, or your intent with every line and every word. So tell me about your experiences with audiobook narration. Were you the voice, the author? If you're a fan, what do you like best in a narrator? Any tips that the panelists missed? And that's all for today. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button and share it with all your friends. It goes a long way towards helping people find me. And I'll be back again next Monday with more writing tips and writerly musings. Bye-bye.